Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Xen Sams. Now, coming up, we have a very, very special guest. Goomba Johnny, Bronx native baby, is in the house. Most of you know him as a comedian, but he has a ton under his belt. He's also a radio host, an actor, and an author, and almost a pro athlete. Almost, I say. Now, Johnny signed as a free agent in professional football with the New York Giants and then with the New York Jets back in the day. And although both opportunities were a dream, he had to retire from the sport due to a neck injury. He then went on to establish Broadway Bodyguards, and he basically escorted celebrities and famous businessmen in and out of the New York City area safely. He looked out for good old Smokey Robinson, Sam Kinison, and Malcolm Forbes, to name a few. Now, on the comedy side, Johnny has joined the ranks of many famed comedians throughout his career by performing stand-up at popular comedy clubs like Caroline's in Manhattan, Mohegan Sun, Foxwoods, Borgata, and Caesar's Palace in Atlantic City. Then we have his famous Friar roasts. Now, this is important because my good old friend Arthur Idala is the president of the Friars Club currently, right here in NYC. And if you're in the industry, especially in radio, film, or television, you have to become a member. I just recently joined and I couldn't be more thrilled. So apparently, back in the day, Johnny entered and won a national talent search from the Friars Club for roasting. He's roasted celebrities like Matt Lauer, Vincent Pastore, Big P, and Gary Dell'Abate. Now, Johnny has also shared the stage with many top acts in comedy. He has accolades in film, TV, and like I said earlier, even as a writer. But he's going to tell you all about that stuff, as well as where you can catch him performing these days. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you. I got exhausted from listening to all the stuff that I tried to do.
Well, you know what? You have done a lot, my friend. I am so happy to have you on the show, and I want to talk about where you're going to be in Chicago this weekend. Tell us the Improv with your wingman Anthony.
Yeah, me and Anthony Rodia will be there in Chicago at the Improv, and I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Schlumberg is the area suburb of Chicago, and we'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Have not heard of Goomba Johnny, you definitely have to check him out. Go to theimprov.com. You can get more details. Now, Johnny, who is the biggest celebrity you have ever worked with?
The biggest, I'm sorry? Comedically? I mean, well, when I was on the radio, I interviewed everybody. From, Michael Jackson on down. I've had some interviews that were memorable. I probably did the last radio interview that he did before he passed on with Luther Vandross. And that was very memorable to me. But, on the radio, I got to interview, Michael Jackson and Jennifer Lopez and Madonna and Cher. And I mean, you can just go on and on.
Many celebrities, and you've shared the stage with acts, such as Andrew Dice Clay and Mario Cantone and George Wallace, and the list goes on and on. But do you feel that during the pandemic and throughout this COVID-19 outbreak, where the world just came to a crashing halt, talent such as yourself ended up becoming more sought after? Everybody wants a good laugh these days. How do you feel your career has changed post-pandemic and versus pre-pandemic?
Well, we worked a lot during the pandemic. We did a good amount of outdoor shows. I'm talking about in parking lots with, sometimes 250 people in New Jersey or outside in Connecticut, where we were people all wore masks and were 6 feet apart from each other. I mean, it was extremely well done. People had to get out. A lot of people felt, the need to just for any kind of socialization. But I will say the major difference from doing comedy before the pandemic and after the pandemic is that people before the pandemic, after a show, would come up to you and say, that was a good show. I really enjoyed your act. during the pandemic and now as the pandemic is where it is right now, and after you perform, people come up to you and they shake your hand and they look you dead in the eye and they go, I want to thank you. I can't tell you how much I needed this. Thank you so much for what you do. I haven't laughed in a year. And you hear that as a comedian and if you just take a step back, you're like, oh my God, I didn't, I never realized, um, I never,
People, but being a comedian, you're also a therapist, so to speak, because you get up on that stage, you're looking at all of these people that need something from you, and they need to laugh and they need escapism for that moment, and you do it so effectively. And you don't just do it here in the tri-state area, but you take the show on the road and you're committed to your craft, so to speak, and you keep reinventing yourself. And sometimes, when people say to me, with respect to your average entertainer, the pandemic hit them hard. They were not working, or they fell into this deep dark hole. And quite for me, it was quite the opposite. I mean, this show was born during the pandemic. I feel like your comedy has kind of spiraled into that next level for you, and even lending to that point in time where you were a book author. Now, you wrote a book back in 2008. Have you written any books since then, or was that your one and done?
you know what? I mean, it's funny because in high school, I probably would have been voted most likely not to write a book. Um, uh, you know, and I know. I was a C student, and I didn't really apply myself very well. I mean, back in the day, they called you a daydreamer. Now they call you ADD, right? So,
Exactly, exactly.
right. So, I did it. Finishing the book was a great accomplishment. But right now I'm working on a one-man show that I've just been picking up and putting down regarding my life during the 90s. So that seems to be or will be my next big project that I.
Now, the first book was So You Want to Be a Mobster, Get Made, Get Paid, Get Babes, Start Your Own Mafia Family. And it was
Well,
and
it's a comedic
it was a
handout.
comedic self-help yourself book on how to start your own mafia family, which I thought was hilarious. But
Yeah,
it's funny because the mafia, there's a fascination with the mafia, especially in pop culture, and especially for that escapism bit that we're talking about. And a lot of people live through these shows, whether it's The Sopranos, whether it's our good friend William DeMeo's series Gravesend, which is an
right.
awesome series. Definitely, people have to check that out. But I think that your spin on that, and being Goomba Johnny, Siciliano, that whole Italian,
Yeah.
let's get to it. I think it suits you well, but I think that making you're just hilarious. I mean, you have some lines in there that definitely people have to check you out. I don't want to give too much away. Theimprov.com. Please definitely check out Guma Johnny. We're still talking to him, but I want to remind you guys that he is hilarious on all fronts. Now, you're also involved in a lot of charity work. I know that you love to give back. You love to work with kids. You were appointed way back in the day board of directors for the Cooley Anemia Foundation, and you do a lot of contributions. Tell us if there's one charity that you like to work closely with, because I know a lot of celebrities and a lot of performers do work closely with a lot of organizations. What's yours?
Well, being on the radio, when I was on the radio over the course of the 16 years, you you're in a position to help promote and create awareness to many different charities, and I understood what needed to be done in the community, and I took full advantage of being on the radio and trying to help as many people as I can. Um, but if there was one charity that I'm still involved with, that I will always be involved with, it's called the Buttaconti Fund for Spinal Cord Research. And, it was a charity. Nick Buttaconti was a famous football player. His son got injured and paralyzed, and they formed this Buttaconti Fund for Spinal Cord Research. And they've raised millions of dollars and have made great strides in helping people who are paralyzed to possibly walk again and to walk again. Yeah, so it's really, um, it's something that I'll stay with for the rest of my life.
it when celebrities and people that have power and a voice like yourself, who travel and who are constantly in the public eye, give back in some capacity. And as a mom, I'm always completely smitten with people going above and beyond for people that need help or that are disabled or underprivileged or you name it. So kudos to you. I take my hat off to you for that. Now, I have to ask, because people that know you, but people that don't know you want to know, Goomba Johnny, how did this name come about?
Well, it's not my Christian name, and no, it's just that what happened was when I joined the radio, my program director felt that my real name, John Saliano, would be too difficult to say and remember. So many times in radio, they give you nicknames, and that was a nickname that, um, like, yeah, Gumba Johnny, and it, came up. And I mean, what's interesting when I look back at the time, and when I signed on with the radio station in '96,
Talking about, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
I was probably, the first um, outward, Italian, uh, radio personality, that with that kind of shtick. So, and there's a large Italian community in the tri-state area.
There's like a movement behind you. I've never seen anything like it, especially with you and Anthony on social media, because I know
Mm.
that Anthony Rodeo is very, very relevant, so to speak, as an influencer on social media, so to speak. He has a big following, and I think between the two of you, you do it so nicely. But I thank you for coming on the show, and more importantly, thank you for making us laugh in a time that seems to be so stiff between the political movements and the religious movements and the BLM movements and all these movements. I just like something light, and a dose of Goomba Johnny is exactly what we need.
Well, thank you for having me, and continue to bring this all information about what everybody's doing out there, and keeping everybody aware of who's who and who's doing what. That's very, very important, and I enjoyed speaking to you. And continued success, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You're listening to Xen Sams. I'm your host right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, on A Moment of Zen. That was Goomba Johnny. Definitely check him out. The improv.com. He's going to be in Chicago performing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Definitely check him out. We'll be right back after this.